Pro Group Management. Workers' comp that works for you.
Welcome to Nevada Newsmakers. This is Orrin Johnson filling in for Sam Shad. Joining us today is Erica Roth, candidate for Assembly District 24. Next on an all-new Nevada Newsmakers.
As you know, Reno is booming. Toll's development company is helping it grow with insightful design and development, building community with every project, adding beauty, adding excitement, emphasizing our shared humanity. Reno is becoming bigger. Toll's development is helping it become better, more livable, more enjoyable. To learn more, go to tollsdevelopment.com. tollsdevelopment.com.
Unlock the loot this March at Tamarack Casino. Cash and free play giveaways all month, including a progressive jackpot giveaway up to $20,000 and a guaranteed $20,000 cash winner in the Golden Ticket Finale. Your good times are at Tamarack Casino.
Story County is leading Nevada. Home of the Tahoe Reno Industrial Center, Google, Tesla, Panasonic, and other world-leading companies. Story County provides thousands of tech, advanced manufacturing, and logistics careers for Nevadans. We're diversifying and driving Nevada's economy and generating millions in tax revenue and billions in economic activity across northern Nevada. Story County is leading Nevada's future.
Save money and take transit. Did you know you can ride the bus all day for less than what it would cost you for a gallon of gas? Plan your trip now by going to rtcwashoe.com.
Like a traditional handmade basket, retail is woven into the fabric of life in Nevada. From big box to mom and pop, retail supports our communities in countless ways. Jobs for the disabled, team uniforms for kids, help for the elderly, and so much more. Retail employs over 1 in 10 workers. Retail supports Nevada, and we support retail.
RANNV.org.
This is Nevada Newsmakers with host Sam Shad, a no-holds-barred political forum. Now, from the Nevada Newsmakers broadcast headquarters, here is Sam Shad.
Welcome back to Nevada Newsmakers. This is Orrin Johnson filling in for Sam Shad. With us today is Erica Roth, who's a candidate for State Assembly District 24. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Orrin.
So, tell us a little bit about yourself. Obviously, running for office, that's sort of the question all candidates love to answer. So, tell us who you are.
Well, I think that you can appreciate as a former lobbyist, it's actually kind of a hard question to answer. But in all seriousness, I'm really excited to be a candidate for Assembly District 24. My district covers Midtown, downtown, the university, which is really exciting to me, part of Wells Avenue, and then part of Old Southwest. So it's a district that's very near and dear to my heart. Sarah Peters is not seeking re-election, and I feel very thankful to have her endorsement in this race. And so, you know, as a former lobbyist, I've spent a lot of time in that building, and so when people approached me when Sarah said that she wasn't seeking re-election about running, I was like, oh no, you can appreciate that, I'm sure.
So that's true, and we did, you know, obviously you're not a full-time lobbyist.
I'm not, no.
I'm surprised you led with that, because sometimes they hear the L word and they freak out a little bit. What's your day job?
My day job is a public defender, and I'm the lobbyist for the public defender's office. And so, you know, when I was approached about running, I say that in jest, only to you because you've been in that building. But it is really important for us coming into this next session to have legislators who do have experience in that building. The Assembly is losing 25% of their current seats, and so we will have a very, very fresh freshman class. And it's really important to me when thinking about good governance, when thinking about passing good policy, that we have people who understand the policy, understand how the building works, and knows how to reach across the aisle and figure out solutions.
So I want to go back a minute. So because obviously we have a citizen legislature, and people's experience before they go into that building, I think matters quite a bit. I like having a citizen part-time legislature for those reasons. So obviously as a public defender, you're an attorney. Has that been your only job in the law? How long have you been doing it? Have you done other stuff? What did you do before you went to law school? All that sort of thing.
Yeah, so I have spent part of my career as a public defender. I currently do appellate work with the Public Defender's Office, and so, but I have previously done trial work and from anything from misdemeanors to Category A felonies. Prior to, I kind of sandwiched between two periods of time in the Public Defender's Office. I was Governor Sisolak's Deputy General Counsel, and through that experience being in the executive branch, coupled with my experience as a public defender, really in the trenches, representing very vulnerable members in our community, and having also done that as a legal aid attorney, doing housing justice work, you know, I look at things from a very broad lens of how do we address issues with the resources that the state has, within the structure that is allowed in this state, to prevent crime from happening, to make sure that housing is available to people, these kind of broad strokes. And having been in the executive branch, understanding how that process works, it's been a very valuable experience to me and a guiding experience to me when I think about policy.
So it's obviously experience matters, and it's a good thing to have. When people are cynical about government, as they are, probably with some reason these days, a lot of times experience in government can be a detriment. People want to see sort of people on the outside coming in with a fresh set of eyes to fix stuff. How do you balance that experience with fresh ideas or all that sort of thing? Tell us about that.
I mean, I think that's a really good point. Number one, I think that having new legislators, having people, new blood come in is really important. Whether or not they have experience previously in the government, I think that experience is very valuable. And it is important to have people in that building who understand what's capable, so that when they go in, they have realistic expectations, they know how to work with other people, and they can actually accomplish something for their community. That's something that's very important for me, to be practical about what my community needs and how to accomplish that.
So I want to talk just a little bit more about your district. 8024, it's a heavily Democratic district. You're in a, how many people are running in the primary?
There's just 2 people running in the primary.
And so I should have checked before.
It's changed a lot in the last few weeks. So
it is hard to keep track of our legislative districts. But this is the kind of race where whoever wins the primary is almost certainly going to win that race, just because of the numbers and all that sort of thing. And so what does that mean in terms of, you talk about the community and wanting to represent that community. What does that mean for you versus if you're running in sort of a swingier district or that sort of thing? Also, I'm curious, did you grow up in that area of town?
So I grew up in northern Nevada. I actually went to high school in Carson City. I've been in this district for the last 7-8 years. I forget which year I moved in, to be honest.
No, that's fair.
But I came back to Nevada after law school and made my home there. So I feel very connected to this district. I care a lot about the constituents in this district because I see a lot of them cycle in and out of the system as a public defender. You know, I sat down with students from UNR the other day, and I think this gets back to your question of representing my district versus a swingier district. This district fits me and my policies because it is a pretty progressive district. That being said, I think that there are a few issues that are being felt not just in my district, but across the state, and that number one issue is housing. In my district, 70% of residents are renters. So, you know, we have to think about what that means as far as the protections that are provided to them. I sat down with some UNR students in the last week, and the number one issue that they are, you know, talking to me about is the cost of housing. And they are expressing to me, look, you know, I love Nevada, I'm from here, I want to be here, but it's unrealistic for me to stay here after I get my education because I'm being priced out of the market.
And we'll talk about that in another segment, but we're going to leave it for there. We'll be right back.
Southwest Specialties has been making the homes and businesses of Nevada beautiful for more than 20 years. Their experienced designers and craftsmen create the walkways, backyards, water features, and a variety of outdoor cooking areas that add curb appeal and value to your investment. Call today or visit them at their website and see how they can make your outdoor spaces special. Southwest Specialties, creative, distinctive, beautiful.
Pro Group Management is the place where companies can find workers' comp solutions that are designed to meet their specific business requirements. As regulations evolve, Pro Group takes a proactive approach to clear the path to make sure your business stays ahead of the curve. Knowing your workers' comp program is optimized, you can focus on other important matters related to your growing business. Pro Group Management, workers' comp that works for you.
Truck drivers are some of the hardest working people you'll meet, delivering over 70% of America's freight and 92% of Nevada's. When there's a natural disaster, they're delivering critical supplies to help those communities recover and rebuild. Every sector of the economy and our nation's military rely on truck drivers. So let's take a moment to say thank you. On the open road or city streets, our truck drivers are rolling to make our economy and our nation stronger. Trucking moves America forward.
What do you count on? You count on your power every day. At NV Energy, we've always powered what's important to you, but we're not looking at the past. We're focused on the future. While our standards are high, our rates will remain low. And our commitment to renewables isn't just meeting standards, but leading the way. Because you can count on more than just your power. You can count on the company who brings it to you. That's our promise. You can count on it.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
Welcome back to Nevada Newsmakers. This is Orrin Johnson filling in for Sam Shad. If you're just joining us, with us today is Erica Roth, who's a candidate for State Assembly District 24. So we're going to talk about some of those other issues. You talked about housing, but you're a public defender. I'm a criminal defense attorney. I've been a prosecutor. Our wheelhouse is criminal justice stuff. And you, in fact, as you indicated, are the lobbyist for the public defender's office to make sure that the legislature understands that point of view when they're passing new criminal laws. So let's talk about criminal justice reform. A few years ago, there was a major omnibus criminal justice reform bill, changed a lot of things. The Governor Lombardo has sort of tried to roll some of those things back. And what we're seeing is there's been a lot of pendulum shifts with tough on crime versus trying to, restorative stuff. That pendulum is swinging harder. And in Oregon, they're recriminalizing drugs because that experiment was a disaster for them. In San Francisco, they're being tougher on crime now because some of the more lenient policies have not been successful there. So tell us, from your point of view, has Nevada gone too far? Have we not gone far enough? What's left to be done with criminal justice reform?
Yeah, I appreciate that question. And I'm just going to push back on you a little bit with some facts. So when we talk about, I agree, the pendulum is swinging, and I think it's swinging hard in the other direction. But it's important when, away from criminal justice reform, that is. But it's really important to understand the underlying policy and what's actually happening when sometimes it looks like criminal justice reform is failing. So you gave the example of Oregon, that it was an abject failure, right, this decriminalization. When you actually dig into that policy there, one issue that they found and that lawmakers agreed on is that there was not investment into treatment. And so this is one thing that I care a lot about when we talk about criminal justice reform, is that you can't just say we're going to lower penalties, right? You also have to, and this is for any policy, you also have to put into place the structure in which somebody can succeed under these new laws. And so with Oregon as an example, a lot of legislators came back and said, we made this change, we felt it was the right change, but we weren't providing the support that many of these individuals both needed and deserved for it to be successful. Looking at San Francisco as another example, there's two things that I think are really important when we talk about San Francisco. Number one is that, I hear a lot from Republicans, we're going to our district attorney, held a press conference saying, we are going to turn into San Francisco, don't California, my Nevada,
Right.
all of this.
I feel that way.
All of this kind of rhetoric. But what's really important is, number one, crime in Nevada is at a low. So
violent crime in Nevada. Property crime is rising.
That's not true. That is not true. So violent crime in Nevada is an all-time low. Thefts in Nevada peaked in 2021, which was very common across the country. And this was also true in San Francisco. And those are these kind of smash and grabs that we see, right? These videos that play on loop as to put fear into the community about and implicating that this is currently happening in this state. That's not true. It's simply not true. We're not seeing those kind of cases, and we are seeing a downward trend in theft crimes. And so it's very important when we talk about criminal justice reform, when we try to compare Nevada to other places, that we're actually talking about the facts. And the facts say that crime across the board is down in the state of Nevada.
Reported crime. One of the issues I think that when you say that is sort of a sense when you go downtown, does it feel safe? It feels less safe to me now. Statistics are what they are. Perceptions matter, and people's sort of sense of safety in their community. So you talked about resources, though, and I certainly agree. I want to see people treated for substance abuse and that sort of thing. How do we do that? We're losing resources. We don't have them. We don't have beds. We don't have mental health treatment. How do we get that?
It's so true. And I just want to take one step back. I will answer that question. The other point that I want to make about San Francisco, and a lesson that I think is very important for us to learn, because this community matters to me just as it matters to you. The safety of my constituents matters to me just as much as it matters to you or anybody else who may view the solutions differently. Public safety is always going to be an issue. But one thing that we can learn from San Francisco is that they also have a housing crisis that has been exacerbated by unfettered ability to build without any regulations or providing housing for low-income individuals. And it's created this housing crisis in San Francisco. And so when we talk about criminal justice reform, we have to think, okay, if I have a client, for example, I was doing parole hearings a few weeks ago, and somebody gets their drink or stay out past curfew a few too many times, and they end up back in prison because they weren't following the terms of their parole. And when they're about to be released, the question that's asked is, where are you going to stay? What address can I contact you at? And by and far, most people are like, I have nowhere to live. How do we expect people to be successful on their parole or probation if they don't have the most basic human needs met, which is housing?
Well, let's talk about that. It's a great place to stop for a break, but we're going to come back to housing when we return.
The Nevada Builders Alliance has been protecting the interests of the construction industry for over 50 years. Our programs save members thousands of dollars every year and allow them to provide much-needed benefits to their employees. Our industry also allows Nevada to grow. If you're thinking about a career in the construction industry, reach out. And if you haven't thought of a career in construction, what are you waiting for? We are the Nevada Builders Alliance.
For 50 years, Nevada Heating has been keeping people comfortable in their homes. At Nevada Heating, call the Do It Right guys and get the heat back on today. Call us today and we'll fix it today. That's the Nevada Heating way. Why freeze for days on end when Nevada Heating can get your furnace fixed today? Call us today and we'll fix it today at 323-5585 or schedule us on our website at nevadaheating.com.
Carson Valley Inn, it's your place for the good times. Carson Valley Inn.
Big R in Sparks is located on Bering Boulevard next to Smith's and across from Reed High School. It's a 50,000 square foot chick magnet. March is chick season at Big R. All locations. Cute, adorable, and save 10% on all chick feed and supplies. Bring the kids. Chick season at Big R. Hardware, chicks, and a whole lot more.
Unlock the loot this March at Tamarack Casino. Cash and free play giveaways all month, including a progressive jackpot giveaway up to $20,000 and a guaranteed $20,000 cash winner in the Golden Ticket Finale. Your good times are at Tamarack Casino.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
Welcome back to Nevada Newsmakers. This is Orrin Johnson filling in for Sam Shad. If you're just joining us, with us today is Erica Roth, who's a candidate for Assembly District 24. Thank you again for joining us. So when we left off, we were talking about crime, criminal justice reform, and how to deal with it. And you keep going back to housing. You talk about housing as a priority to you. So one of the issues, obviously, that we have is there's limited resources, there's limited dollars. Certain tough on crime policies, like the current DA's negotiating policies, cost a lot of extra money.
They do.
We go to trial a lot more, and that means less resources for specialty courts or for housing or for other things or for other prosecutions. I have problems with that. But I also have problems with, are we providing housing to people who aren't invested in that housing? And what do we do to sort of provide people with this that's not just giving them stuff that maybe they don't care about? Talk to us about that and your ideas about housing and how that acts with public safety.
Sure. I mean, I guess, again, I would push back a little bit of the idea that people who are unhoused wouldn't care about their homes. I think that that's kind of a myopic view of, people who are my constituents.
Except I've seen it. I've been a public defender. I've seen it. You give people free stuff and they don't care about it. I've seen it as you give people a free lawyer. They care about it less than if they're invested and they pay. We see that over and over again. There's a lot of studies that show that. So how is it that we get people, if they're not putting their sort of own skin in the game, especially if they're focused on their drug use and that sort of thing? How is, housing projects is a pejorative? How do we do that in a way that's successful for people?
Yeah, well, number one, I wholeheartedly disagree with you. So, as a public defender, my clients value my work very much. And when you show up for your community, they show up back for you. So I don't know what your experience was as a public defender, but that's certainly not mine. But when we go back to the issue of housing, did I say we just provide housing for everybody with no recourse, right? So when we talk about what we do, let's look at the bills that were brought last session. So, for example, I think it was AB 298, but don't quote me on that, would have put limits on how much we can increase rent for seniors living on fixed incomes. We know that right now, youth and seniors are hit hardest by the housing crisis. Now, that bill was vetoed by the governor. And so it begs the question, why wouldn't we say, hey, if someone is living on a fixed income, they've paid into Social Security for their whole life, they're now getting that back, but the rental market is not in a place that, Social Security is not in a place that somebody can actually pay into the rental market. Why would we not put limits on that for senior citizens?
Well, because price controls don't tend to work. I mean, we had rent control in New York City and the rents are skyrocketing.
Well, this is not rent control. So no, it's not. And that's really important. So there was a lot of confusion last session about what's rent control and what's limits on increases. And those two things are very different. I actually agree with you. I have not yet seen the data that says rent control across the board is successful. And it's very important to me when I talk about, potential policy solutions to say what is evidence-based. And I don't think that the studies are there yet to say rent control across the board will work. Now, if someone comes to me and says, we did this study, it looks like it works, that's something that I would, consider, but I haven't yet to see that. But when we're talking about in limited circumstances, we're talking about seniors living on a fixed income. If somebody is not willing to say, hey, let's limit how much somebody can increase their rent every year based on how much they're bringing in from Social Security, that's a moral issue.
But price controls don't work generally, because what happens is that if prices increase, then the people who supply the housing don't want to create the housing if they're going to make less money. I mean, that's government interference in the market, and that's why it has detrimental effects. So even on a smaller scale, how do you not get that unintended consequence that we've seen so often anytime government has tried to sort of fix prices in any sort of commodity?
Well, I think that when we're talking about, government interference with the housing market, So let's look at what happened in Clark County recently. It came out that a single corporation had bought up about over 300 housing units, and those were sitting empty. So those were units that could have been provided to the general public for people, and it manipulates the market. And there is a time for the government to step in and say, you are manipulating the market in a way that is detrimental to communities, and that has to be put in check, right? And so there.
So how do you do that in a way that doesn't interfere with people's freedom to buy houses, sell houses, that sort of thing, whatever they want to do?
I guess I'm not seeing the connection between limiting if you can raise someone's rent by $100 versus, $500, how that infringes on anyone's freedoms. And I think there's a fundamental disagreement there.
No, for sure, but let's talk about that. If I'm going to build houses, I want to make money. I mean, that's why I build houses. If I buy an apartment complex, I want to rent to people. I want to make money. If I can rent to somebody who's going to pay 30% more versus the person that's in there, it's my freedom to contract with anybody else. That's a fundamental freedom issue to me. And so what steps can the government take that strikes the right balance between that particular freedom that doesn't incentivize people not to either build or buy or rehabilitate or anything else those housing units to begin with?
Okay, well, number one, we're going to run out of people who are able to pay these prices that a potential developer would want. So it is your fundamental freedom to say, I've built this property, I own this property, I want to rent it for this amount. But there comes a point when the market is not accessible to regular, everyday Nevadans.
And unfortunately, we can't solve economic problems in 20 minutes, and we'll have to leave it there. Thank you so much for joining us. I really enjoyed this conversation. We'll be right back.
7 at 7 is a newscast built for your smartphone. It's a 7-minute newscast available every weekday at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. at lvrj.com. We don't waste your time, and we give you the day's top stories.
We at the RJ have noticed some similarities between us and a certain BTS character, RJ.
Plus the latest in Las Vegas business, weather, health, and entertainment news. 7 at 7 streaming now on your smartphone.
Each day, the Children's Advocacy Alliance partners with leaders, legislators, and families across Nevada to improve children's health, education, economic well-being, and safety. We recognize Nevada will be no better than the state of its children. Be a part of this change. Be a supporter of the Children's Advocacy Alliance. For more information, go to caanv.org.
Find your pot of gold at Carson Valley Inn during the Leprechaun Loop Progressive giveaways. Jackpot progresses $2,500 each drawing night up to $20,000. And $10,000 in grand prize giveaways guaranteed Saturday, March 30th. Get your share of Leprechaun loot at the Carson Valley Inn.
Modern boutique Ahern Hotel and Event Center sits at the heart of the Las Vegas Strip. 2 floors of meeting and event space are ideal for groups and conventions. Stay in one of 200 luxurious rooms and suites. Brand your event throughout the property. Flexible event spaces make for easy planning and personalization. Take over the entire hotel with a full buyout option.
That's all the time we have for today. Thank you for joining us. This has been Orrin Johnson filling in for Sam Shad. You can join us 24/7 at NevadaNewsmakers.com.